And is the screen visible?
Screen is also visible, Dr. Rekha.
Okay. So thank you very much, and a very good morning to the August gathering here. There have been a lot of discussions by the eminent personalities today morning on small agroforestry, how tea can be incorporated into agroforestry. Today, I will be talking on smallholder teak agroforestry plantations, its scope and prospects in India. This is a venture which has been taken by the Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, and different institutes under the ICFRE have come together to carry out this work. A brief recap on what has been discussed yesterday and today on the challenges to sustainable wood production. The first one is the National Forest Policy, which has now locked the natural forest for timber production, and the priority has been conservation. The competition between food and wood, where priority is given for food rather than wood. The low wood production per unit area per time. Shortage of quality planting material. Lack of appropriate post-harvest and value addition technologies, and the poor market linkages for the wood produce. All this has been discussed yesterday as well as today morning by the eminent speakers. A look at the wood imports since 1990s. As far as India is concerned, its appetite for teak has been very voracious. If you look at the data, in 1980s, India imported teak from 11 countries. In 2010, it was from 51 countries. And yesterday, Dr. Sandeep from TeakNet was mentioning as to how in 2020, India imports teak from 72 countries. Yesterday and today, Dr. MP Singh, the director IWST, as well as Ranjan sir were mentioning about the huge imports of teak that has happened to the country, especially wood and wood products, of which 50% is of teak. So this causes a huge exchequer loss to the country. And again, yesterday, if I recall, Dr. Arun Bansal was asking about what are the prices for the shipments of teak logs and sawnwood in relation to India. This is the latest information that we have received from the ITO. This was published last week, wherein we find that teak is imported from almost 30 countries all over the globe, where Cameroon sawnwood, the Tanzanian sawnwood, and the Myanmar sawnwood are the costliest when compared to the other countries. So, considering that shortage of timber in a forested nation where 95% of plantation teak is imported by India, we also need to look into strategies to grow our own wood, because this is one way where we can become reliant and thereby reduce the exchequer. So what could be the strategies that we can adopt to grow our own wood? One would be to increase the area under tree cultivation, where we could look into fallow lands, wastelands, which are available in plenty in the country, or increase the productivity of the TOFs, as mentioned by our eminent speakers today, through agroforestry and in plantations, or use advanced technologies to increase the per unit productivity and also utilize the vast wealth of the forest genetic resources that we have, which none of the other countries have. So in this context, now that we look into land, what we aim to look into are the smallholder systems. So what are smallholder systems? These are small units of land varying from 0.5 to 2 hectares, which are available with the farming community. Especially in India, the marginal and the small scale operators dominate this area. Their land holdings are to an average of only 1 hectare. This is as per the GOI report of 2020. And what do we plan to do in these areas? The different options that we can adopt here are, one is going for either an integrated system or a block system. You could otherwise start as an agroforestry system where you have a mix of crops slowly leading towards a sole tree crop, or you can maintain these smallholder systems purely as subsistence systems for commercial production. Now, when we talk about, now that land has been identified, what about the productivity of teak? We had scanned through a lot of literature and we have collated information on what is the MAI per hectare in different countries. And there we found that in India, the rotation age varies between 30 to 50 years. And in a similar situation, we have Brazil, where the rotation age is only 20 years. The Indian MAI varies between 2 to 10 cubic meter per hectare. Whereas in the case of Brazil, where they have gone in for clonal forestry of teak, they are able to achieve an MA of as high as 32 cubic meters per hectare. Now, literature also states that with best planting sites, best planting stock, and with best planting practices, in a country like India, we can attain an MAI of 15 cubic meter per hectare with a rotation age of just 20 or 25 years. So this is possible in India. And then coming to the interest of farmers as far as teak is concerned. As Dilip Kumar sir was mentioning, there has been a lull in the interest in teak because many of the private companies had been projecting exaggerated values to the farmers initially, because of which the farmers are a little hesitant to going for teak. The major preferences of the farmers, which we understand through our studies, are that they like to go in for bud planting, or they prefer small blocks. Another matter of interest is they prefer short rotation, and then the planting stock which they get is generally seedlings which are of unknown sources, which lead to early flowering, and thereby they are not able to get the quality that is desired for them. Let us take the case study of teak from Malaysia, where they have been able to produce and sell teak on a large scale. The teak is called super teak or top teak. Now, YSD in Malaysia is a private company which owns one of the largest and the richest teak germplasm in the world. From where did they get this teak? This was through the various international provenance trials that were laid throughout the world by the Ganida. We also had an international provenance trial like this in Maridimali in Andhra Pradesh, but Malaysia utilized this. They multiplied the material through tissue culture, which was one of the easiest methods of multiplication. They did use rooted cuttings as well as tissue culture. They did the DNA fingerprinting, and they also studied the wood characteristics at the end of 10 years. Now, once this material was developed, they distributed it to different parts of the world. Yesterday, Dr. Sandeep in his talk in TeakNet was mentioning about how teak has moved away from the native regions, and it has spread throughout the country. So today, whatever logs we import in India are the material that has been supplied mostly by Malaysia to different Latin American countries, and they are all young teak material that we are importing. So if Malaysia can do like this, why not India? India has gained success in tree improvement in eucalypts and cashew nuts, which are pulpwood species. So if we've been able to gain so much of success in a pulpwood species, I am sure in the days to come, we will also be able to introduce clonal forestry for timber species.
Yeah, Rekha, just
Yes,
wait.
sir.
Your slide is not visible. Others, please, इसको others, हाँ? Thomas sir, please अभी share मत कीजिए.
Sir, is it visible now, sir?
Okay, now it is okay. Yeah.
Thanks. So at IFGTB, we conducted a small study on clones versus seedlings. The plantation was carried out in the year 2000. This was carried out in our research station at Panampalli, which is in Kerala. This was a totally unmanaged plantation where we had 3 clonal materials, one from Maharashtra, from Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu, and the seedlings were Nellambur seedlings. So if you look at the graph here, you would realize the height of the clones, all the 3 clones as well as the seedlings, not much of difference was seen. So that means to say that the height does not depend on the material that we used. But if you take a look at the GBH of the clones, you can find that the clones put in twice as much as the girth that was put in by the seedlings. So this clearly indicates that if we are going to plant identified material, if we are able to use proven material in the field, that means we would be able to achieve better productivity as far as teak is concerned in plantations which is managed. Like this I mentioned was unmanaged. If we are going to manage it, we would be able to get better productivity per unit. Now, based on the results that we got, this gave us the confidence to take up the All India Coordinated Research Project on quality teak production. Here, 5 different institutes of ICFRE are involved: IFGTB, DFRI, FRI, IFP, and the AFRI. So here we have been multiplying teak through tissue culture because that's the easiest method to mass produce teak. The rooted cuttings and have their own inherent problems. So with the multiplied material, we started introducing them into farmlands. So as we started popularizing tissue culture teak in farmlands, at the end of 2 years, we did an assessment from 3 different locations as to how is the performance of this material across locations. We found an average height of 6 meters at the end of 2 years, whereas the girth varied from 20 centimeters to 28 centimeters. Now, through word of mouth, the performance of the clones started spreading, and now there has been heavy demand for this teak from various farmers across different states of the country. So presently, we have entered into an MOU with different commercial laboratories for mass production of teak so that we can supply it to the farmers from the different states. A view of how quality teak performs in block plantations as well as bund plantations. These are pictures of how the species is performing in Tamil Nadu, where in bund planting, we find that the tree has reached a height of 10 meters with a girth of 5 meters, average 10 centimeters per year. And Chhattisgarh has been one of those areas where farmers are really interested in agroforestry. We have many progressive farmers who have been approaching us for planting teak on a large scale. This is one of those progressive farmers who, right in the beginning of our venture, came to us to collect material. He planted them, and at the end of 5 years, he's been very happy with the performance. He has been coming back to us, requesting us for almost 1 lakh seedlings for planting in different farmers' fields. He has also given a lot of popularity to teak agroforestry in Chhattisgarh. So this way, we have trials in different parts of the country, both in farmers' lands as well as in the forest department land. And under the AICRP, we are looking forward to spreading quality material of teak to as far as Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand in the north. We look forward to the support of the forest department in laying out these demonstration trials so that farmers can come see for themselves the performance of the material so that they will be able to take it to their fields and practice it in their land. So though we have the site, we have material, and we have been trying to reach out to the farmers, we find that there are lots of challenges and impediments as far as smallholder teak is concerned. The first and the major issue that we find is scheduled timber. This was also discussed again today morning by Dilip Kumar sir, by Ranjan sir, and by the director IWST also. Can be called the farm-grown teak as agri-wood. So the director IWST has been taking a lot of efforts in different forums to try and bring in this concept of agri-wood so that the agroforestry grown teak will have a separate value. So this would require a lot of legal provisions coming in. So I'm sure IWST under the leadership of Dr. MPC would be able to come up with specific certifications for the agri-wood so that teak grown in farmlands can be popularized. Some of the other challenges again that we see are quality, the availability of good quality seed or the germplasm supply, low quality timber, and the lack of capital to invest in teak. Now, as I mentioned earlier, they are mostly small scale or marginal landholders, so their capacity to invest in teak is a little difficult. However, if we are able to convince them that the returns are going to be really good, then I'm sure farmers with their opportunistic management abilities will be able to get good returns, even though they have limited availability, access to resources and to investment. Then their inability to wait for longer durations, limited access to market, and poor bargaining position. Here I would like to share a very small anecdote. One of the serving officers in his home garden, he had 8 trees of almost 1 meter width. Then he contacted the traders to sell the material. They offered him only 20,000 rupees per tree. Now, if this is the case with the serving officer, just imagine the plight of the farmers who are going to grow this teak and sell. So farmers are not in a position to bargain. We need to handhold them to find the appropriate market. The next major issue we find is the middlemen who are engaged in trade. So now, what are the ways in which we can, through research interventions, try to bring in a productivity enhancement? The first and foremost that we see is the silvicultural interventions. The first one is pruning. Once teak reaches up to 6 feet, it is better to start pruning so that the side branches do not come up. We have a very clear goal. The second major silvicultural intervention is singling. Teak has a tendency to branch, so a lot of side branches would come. If we are able to single out all those side branches at a very young age and allow the leader shoot, then we would be able to get very clear goal and very good trees. Now, this is one interesting study which has been taken up at IFGTB. Wind is a limiting factor to the growth of teak. That is a common knowledge. So now, how exactly do we overcome that limiting factor? Now, at IFGTB, we have conducted a study where we try to grow teak in between cashew ranges. So we have tried to develop a 3-tier agroforestry model. This is the data of 3 years growth. So here, if you see, we have been able to harvest 5 crops and then also a bund crop of moringa, which continuously gives the farmer a remuneration throughout the year. And then at the end of say 2 or 3 years, he would be able to harvest casuarinas for pulp and paper production. And maybe by 15 to 20 years, the teak would have grown straight. And so he would be able to harvest this timber also. So that way, over a period of 15 to 20 years, a steady income is made available to the farmer. If such a sort of lucrative models are prescribed to the farmers, they would definitely be interested in taking up this species along with the associated species in the agroforestry model. Now, a word of caution here, because this experiment was conducted in an alluvial soil, which is very rich, and so the results appear very good. This has to be replicated in different types of soils to see what is the performance of the species, what are the different combinations that can be taken up, so that depending on the site, we would be able to prescribe the different agroforestry models. Here again, ICFRE has developed a large number of agroforestry models, which can be implemented in the different sites, and the farmers can be benefited from this. This is one of the ways by means of which we can encourage the farmers to take up agroforestry. The second major area where we need to focus on is seed supply, especially because the forest department mostly deals with the seeds. Now, teak is not to be considered as a single species because we have large number of provenances. It is always better to look at teak as provenances. Yesterday, we had talks where there was a mention of Teli teak, there was a mention of Valsad teak, there's a mention of Halwani teak, and then we have the Nilambur teak. Now, Nilambur has the GI tag. Valsad, they are looking forward to a GI tag. Now, so that teak populations are distinct and different. So it would always be better that if we collect seeds, it would be locality or region specific, because those are already proven to be superior performers. We going in for locality or region specific seeds would give better returns than using seeds from different places. And the third point would be to strengthen the seed supply, mainly from the SPAs, SSOs, and the CSOs for commercial forestry plantations. Our aim should be for certified seeds. There was the case of OECD in 1974 when they came to India. At that time, we did not have these genetic assets with us. So we were not able to efficiently implement the OECD. But today, the conditions are different. We have all these genetic assets with us. So we may think of revisiting the OECD scheme so that whatever seeds that come out of the genetic assets available with the forest department could be certified. Now, IFGTB in the coming future is looking forward to taking up a pilot study on how OECD can be implemented in the forest department plantations, maybe taking 1 or 2 forest departments as case studies. So once you identify the seed sources and certify them, then through commercial supply of the seeds, we could also do a geotagging of the genetic assets so that we track where our seeds grow, how they are performing in the farmer's field, and how best we can support them through the techniques, the management techniques, and the silvicultural interventions that we are developing. In addition to that, the most important thing is developing seed and seedling standards for quality planting stock. So this ICFRA has already prepared a draft for the certification standards, and ICFRA has supported the state forest departments for the delineation of SSOs, CSOs, and the SPAs. Now, if the state forest departments are able to translate this genetic information into the on-field performance, then that would be one of the best examples of increasing the productivity. Now, one word of caution here as far as teak is concerned. When you transport seeds across population limits, then we find that the species displays a lot of problems. That's a breakdown in the genetic structure. The first one is it loses its apical dominance. The second is early flowering. And the third one is asynchrony in flowering. So, just as we have agroclimatic zones, we also need to do a seed zonation as far as teak is concerned. So, doing a morphological, phenological, as well as molecular study, we have been able to do seed zonation in teak where 3 genealogical zones have been identified. We have Kerala as one unique set, we have Tamil Nadu, Karnataka populations as one, and we also have Karnataka and Central India, that is the dry teak as the third one. So if at all seeds have to be transported, then it should be within these locations. This is one area where we haven't been able to do much. The International Forum on FGRs clearly spells out that when we are moving germplasm across locations, we have to pay a lot of attention to the gene ecological zones, or else we lose the FGRs would not be able to put into their fullest. So this is one area where we expect a lot of caution to be exercised when we are moving teak across locations, especially in India where the teak is found between the 8 and 12 degree latitude. It would be better to exercise caution while moving the material across locations. Now, we have spoken about the sites, we have spoken about the quality planting material, the silvicultural interventions, and what caution has to be taken. In addition to all this, a lot of emphasis has also to be given into skills in forestry development. That is the development of the HR when it comes to handling forestry in the field. So the MOEF and CC has supported ICFRE through the green skill development programs, wherein ICFRE has taken up this task. It has developed its HRD by training the country in areas of plant tissue culture as well as quality planting material producer. And 40% of those whom we have trained have started their own labs and nurseries. They are aware of these problems, and with the skill that they have, they are able to promote the planting of forestry species on a larger scale. In addition to this, the ICFRA also provides training to lab personnel of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. We have provided training to Madhya Pradesh Forest Department, Tamil Nadu Forest Department, where they have tissue culture laboratories. Yesterday, Dr. UD Singh of Gujarat Forest Department was mentioning that they have a tissue culture lab, but they are not able to utilize it to the fullest. We at ICFRA we extend our full support for any sort of technical guidance or support for large-scale production of tea, for identification of quality planting material, and we give both hands-on as well as we are ready to come to your places and then support you in your initiative in production of quality planting stock on a large scale. And we believe that a combined initiative of the state forest departments, of ICFRE and the farmers will be able to help us to augment teak timber, thereby reducing the input to the country and making our country self-reliant in food security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rekha Madam, for your interesting talk and providing perspectives, especially of IFGTB and ICFR's role in augmenting teak timber. Thank you very much for your interesting talk. Before I go to the next speaker, it's a gentle request to all of the speakers to keep their presentation for 15 minutes, considering that we have already overshot the time. I now request Mr. Pramod Krishnan, APCC of Kerala Forest Department, to provide the status and perspectives of augmenting teak wood in Kerala. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes.